Chaik wasn't born into crime. He just slipped into it like a man sliding into a warm river. He had grown up in the small, dusty town of Okoto, where his father was a petty trader and his mother sold akara in front of their house. Life had been tough, but not unbearable. His descent into theft began the year his father died of an illness that no one had the money to properly treat. His mother struggled, and Chaik, instead of helping her, found shortcuts. He discovered that money came faster when you took it from people who were not paying attention. By the time he was 25, Chaik had become a shadow in Okoto Market, the place everyone came for food, fabric, and gossip. The market was a noisy, sprawling maze of stalls, with traders shouting prices, customers bargaining, and buses honking nearby. In such chaos, a skilled thief could disappear easily. And Chaik was more than skilled. He was a master. He had perfected the art of looking harmless. He dressed in simple clothes, a faded t-shirt, jeans, and rubber slippers. He never wore jewelry or carried flashy things. His face carried a friendly smile, the kind that made people feel he was just another customer. But his eyes, his eyes were sharp, scanning bags, pockets, and baskets with the precision of a hunter. That morning, the sun had barely risen when Chaik strolled into the market, hands in his pockets, whistling a popular high-life tune. He passed Mom Nkechi's fruit stall and pretended to inspect the mangoes, his mind already calculating. He noticed a young woman, her phone peeping out of the back pocket of her jeans. In 2 steps, he was behind her. A sorry here, a pardon me there, and the phone slipped into his palm. He walked away, calm and unhurried. This was Chaik's life, every day, small scores that added up. He knew which traders were careless, which customers were distracted, and which stalls gave the best cover. By afternoon, he had picked 2 wallets, a silver wristwatch, and that phone. By evening, he was at a palm wine joint, laughing with friends, his pockets heavy. But what Chaik didn't know was that the market had begun to talk. The traders were getting restless. And somewhere among them, an owner was watching, waiting for the day that proverb would come true. By now, Chaik's life had settled into a rhythm, almost like a well-rehearsed dance. He woke early, not because he loved mornings, but because the best targets came when the market was fresh and crowded. Traders would be busy unpacking their goods, greeting customers, or chasing change for early buyers, moments when hands were too occupied to guard bags and pockets. That Tuesday, Chaik slipped into Okoto Market just as the first wave of buses arrived from nearby villages. The air was thick with the smell of roasted corn, frying akara, and dust kicked up by hurried feet. He greeted a few traders casually. "Mama Kudi, how market?" "Chaik, you know go settle down and marry," one of the older women teased. "One day, Mama," he said, grinning. "For now I day hustle." Hustle, of course, was his polite word for what he did. He started his rounds, pretending to be interested in buying different things. At a fruit stall, a man was busy weighing bananas for a customer. Chaik leaned in to inspect the fruit, accidentally brushing against the man's side. In that single moment, the man's wallet was gone. Chaik moved on before anyone could notice. At another stall, he bought a sachet of pure water, not because he was thirsty, but because the woman selling it had left her small bag open. As he collected his change, his fingers slid into the bag like they were born for it. By midday, Chaik had stolen 2 wallets, a set of keys, and a small purse. He even lifted a brand new phone from a distracted young man who was trying to transfer money to a trader via mobile banking. But Chaik didn't just steal, he studied. He knew who carried cash, who carried bank cards, and who was likely to have both. He memorized patterns. Mama Ada always tucked her day's earnings in her bra. The young boys selling belts kept their cash rolled inside their socks. The tailor's apprentice always carried his phone in his cap pocket. To Chaik, the market wasn't chaos, it was a living map of opportunity. And the more invisible he became, the bolder he grew. What he didn't realize was that people had started piecing together the puzzle. A group of traders had begun whispering about the ghost who walked among them. And among those traders was a woman who had just returned to Okoto with a sharp mind and a plan that would shake Chike's world. The morning she arrived, Mama Sada's presence was felt before her voice was heard. She was a tall, full-bodied woman with a headscarf tied tightly, ankara wrapper neatly folded, and eyes that missed nothing. She had lived in Lagos for years, selling fabrics in the bustling markets of Balagan and Oshodi. But now she had returned to Okoto to open her own fabric stall, bringing with her the sharp instincts that came from years of dealing with all kinds of customers, honest and dishonest alike. She set up her stall near the middle of the market, where human traffic was thick and eyes could see in all directions. As she unpacked bolts of fabric, other traders came to greet her. "Mama Sad, welcome o. Na here you go day now." "Yes-o," she replied, smiling. "And I hear say this market get one thief way be ghost." The others exchanged glances. Some laughed awkwardly, others lowered their voices. "E day true, Mama. Nobody don catch him yet. Him just day walk like spirit." Mama Sad nodded slowly. "Spirit get leg. We go see." From that day, she began watching the market differently. While she sold her fabrics, her eyes flicked from face to face, scanning for movements that didn't belong. It wasn't long before she noticed Chike, the way he drifted from stall to stall without buying much, his hands always seeming to brush against people at just the right moment. She didn't accuse him. Not yet. She had a plan, and it needed patience. For the next few days, Mama Sad turned her stall into a lookout post. She noticed Chike's patterns, how he preferred mornings, how he avoided traders who looked too alert, how he always left before evening. She also noticed something else. Chike never came too close to her stall. Perhaps he sensed her eyes on him, or maybe he simply didn't find her customers careless enough. Either way, Mama Sad decided she needed to tempt him closer. She began calling out to passers-by in a way that made them pause near her stall. Sometimes she would pretend to be distracted, rummaging through her handbag while talking to a customer. At other times, she left the bag open just enough for its contents to show. She also started talking more with other traders about the thief, loudly enough for anyone nearby to hear. "One day for the owner," she would say, adjusting her headscarf. Just one day. Chike had noticed her too. The new woman with the loud laugh and bright fabrics intrigued him. She wasn't like the others. She didn't get flustered easily, and her customers seemed loyal. More importantly, her handbag looked expensive. But something about her eyes made him cautious. They were too sharp, too steady. He decided to keep his distance, for now. Still, curiosity itched at him. Who was she? Why did she talk so boldly about catching the thief? Did she know something? Chike decided he would observe her for a while before making a move. By now, word of the market ghost had spread beyond the traders. Customers were beginning to whisper, warning each other to hold their bags tightly. A few people claimed they had seen someone suspicious, but could never give a clear description. Mama Sad used these murmurs to her advantage. She made sure the thief, whoever he was, knew people were on alert. But she also knew that overconfidence could make him slip. She began to chat with a few trusted traders about setting a small trap. Nothing violent, just enough to expose him. They agreed, but she told them to be patient. One Thursday morning, Chike decided to test Mama Sad. He walked past her stall slowly, pretending to admire a fabric. She greeted him warmly, as if they were strangers meeting for the first time. "Fine boy, you go buy for your girlfriend?" "Not today, Mama. I just day look," he replied, smiling. Her bag was open, money peeking out. For a second, his fingers twitched. But something in her calm expression made him keep walking. She smiled as he left, knowing she had just confirmed his identity. The hesitation had given him away. That night, Mama Sad called her son, Sei, who lived in the city. She told him about the thief and her plan. Sei, a tech-savvy young man, suggested a device, a small tracker he could hide in her handbag. By Saturday, the tracker was in place, tucked deep inside a false lining. Mama Saad made sure her bag looked as tempting as ever, stuffed with cash from fabric sales. All she needed now was for Chaik to take the bait. Saturday was always the most crowded day at Okodo. Villagers came to buy supplies, traders shouted over each other, and the air was thick with noise and dust. Chaik loved Saturdays, so much confusion, so many easy targets. That morning, he told himself he would finally go for Mama Sada's bag. He had watched her long enough. The money inside would be worth it. Chaik hovered near her stall, pretending to argue with a tomato seller. Mama Saad was busy with two women choosing fabrics. Her bag sat at the edge of the table, just within reach. He waited for the perfect moment, when she turned her head to get change. His hand moved quickly, lifting the bag with the skill of someone who had done it 1,000 times. Without looking back, he slipped into the crowd. What Chaik didn't know was that Sei was nearby, sitting on a parked motorcycle with his phone in hand. The tracker's signal blinked brightly on the screen, showing Chaik's exact movements. Within minutes, Sei was following him, weaving through the crowd. Mama Saad pretended nothing had happened, continuing to attend to her customers so as not to alert Chaik. Chaik left the market and headed toward a row of abandoned shops where he usually checked his loot. He felt no rush. No one had ever followed him before. He even hummed a tune as he unzipped the bag. But before he could count the money, he heard the sound of footsteps. Sei stepped out first, blocking the narrow path. Behind him came Mama Saad and 3 traders who had been tipped off earlier. Chaik froze, the bag still in his hands. "So now you," Mama Saad said calmly. "The ghost way get leg." The traders closed in, and Chaik realized for the first time in years that he had nowhere to run. News traveled fast. Within minutes, a crowd had formed, shouting, pointing, and cursing. Some wanted to beat him, but Mama Saad raised her hand. "No need," she said firmly. "Today not the day for the owner." She called the local security, who arrived to take Chaik away. As they led him through the market, the chant began. Every day for the thief, one day for the owner. Chaik kept his head down, shame burning in his chest. For years, he had thought himself untouchable. But now he knew, no matter how long the thief runs, the owner will one day wake up. And for Okodo Market, that day had finally come. The market's narrow paths became a parade ground for Chaik's disgrace. Every trader seemed to stop what they were doing just to watch him pass. Some spat on the ground, others shouted insults, and a few shook their heads sadly. Chaik didn't look up. His shoulders sagged, his slippers dragged against the dusty floor, and the stolen bag hung limply in the grip of one of the security men. "So this na the boy way day disturb our market since," an elderly man muttered. "Small Pekin like this," another trader said, clicking her tongue. The chants grew louder. Every day for the thief. One day for the owner. They led Chaik to the small market security post, a single-room building with peeling paint and one wooden desk. The security head, a tall man called Baba Tund, looked Chaik over. "I don't hear of you," Baba Tund said. "You think say you smart pass everybody. Today, now your turn." Mama Saad stepped forward and placed the stolen bag on the desk. She opened it, showing the cash, her phone, and the small tracker still blinking. Baba Tund raised his eyebrows. It was the first time he'd seen technology used to catch a market thief. Baba Tund asked Chaik why he had been stealing. At first, Chaik kept quiet, staring at the floor. But after a long silence, he muttered, "Na hustle I day hustle. Work no day." Mama Saad shook her head. "Hustle? You call this hustle? You get 2 hands, 2 legs. You no fit work like the rest of us." Chaik didn't answer. Baba Tund called the local police station. Within 30 minutes, 2 officers arrived to take Chaik away. The crowd followed them outside, still chanting. The officers pushed them back, warning them to let the law handle it. Chaik glanced back at the market one last time. It felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. After Chaik was taken away, the traders gathered around Mama Saad, showering her with praise. "Mama, you too get sense. If no be you, this boy for still day waka free." She smiled but reminded them. "Next time, make everybody open eye. Thief no fit survive where people day watch." From that day, she was seen as one of the leaders in the market, someone people turned to when trouble arose. At the police station, Chaik was placed in a small, dark cell with 3 other men. The smell of sweat and damp walls clung to the air. That first night, he barely slept. He kept hearing the voices from the market in his head, chanting the proverb like a drumbeat. For the first time in years, he thought about his late father and how disappointed the man would have been. 2 days later, Chaik's mother came to the station. Her eyes were red from crying, her wrapper loosely tied. She had heard the news from a neighbor and rushed over, begging the officers for mercy. "No small Pekin mistake," she pleaded. "A beg, forgive am." But the officers shook their heads. The case was already being processed. Back in Okodo, the traders noticed a change. Customers seemed more relaxed, and the usual warnings of "hold your bag" became less frequent. Mama Saad used the opportunity to suggest forming a small traders' watch group. The idea was welcomed, and soon, volunteers began taking turns patrolling the market. In the cell, Chaik had plenty of time to think. He realized how quickly the life he had built on theft had collapsed in a single day. All the years of success had led to this moment. He thought about how he had ignored honest work, about how his greed had blinded him. More than anything, he thought about Mama Saad, the woman who had outsmarted him without raising her voice. One evening, Chaik sat alone in the cell, staring at the small window high on the wall. The sunlight coming through was faint, but it reminded him of something his father once said. "When you keep walking in darkness, light will find you, even if it burns your eyes." That night, Chaik made a quiet promise to himself. If he ever got out, he would never return to the market as a thief again. The proverb that had haunted him, "Every day for the thief, one day for the owner," was no longer just a chant in the crowd. It was now a mark on his life. Weeks passed, and Chaik remained in custody, waiting for his case to be heard in the magistrate's court. The police had taken statements from Mama Saad and other traders, so the evidence against him was strong. Yet, Mama Saad visited once, not to mock him, but to give him advice. "Boy, you still young," she said through the bars. "If you use that brain way you take thief, you fit make money without shame. Think 'em well." Her words stayed with him long after she left. When the day came, Chaik stood before the magistrate in his faded shirt. He pleaded guilty, explaining that he had no job and had been living this way for years. The magistrate sighed and sentenced him to 6 months in prison, with the possibility of early release for good behavior. It wasn't the worst outcome, but it was enough to teach him that the law was no longer a shadow he could outrun. Prison life was hard, but it stripped Chaik of the arrogance he once carried. He worked in the prison garden, sweeping, and sometimes assisting in the kitchen. With each day, he realized that freedom was worth more than quick money. He befriended an older inmate who often said, "Son, some of us no get second chance. If you get 'em, use 'em well." 6 months later, Chaik walked out of prison with a lighter heart and a head full of plans. The first place he went was home, where his mother hugged him tightly despite her earlier shame. The next week, he returned to Okodo Market, not to steal, but to look for honest work. Some traders avoided him at first, but others, remembering Mama Saada's words, decided to give him a chance. Mama Saad was surprised to see him standing at her stall one morning. He greeted her politely. "I no come for trouble," he said. "I day find work. Anything way I fit do, I go do am." After a long silence, she nodded. You go start by helping me carry goods from the bus stop. No pay for now. If you serious, we go talk. Day after day, Chaik carried heavy bundles of fabric for her. He ran errands, swept the stall, and kept watch when she stepped away. Slowly, the traders began to see a change. The boy who once moved like a shadow now worked under the hot sun without complaint. The market never forgot what Chaik had done, but over time, the whispers grew quieter. Instead of calling him the thief, some began to say, "That boy day try now. Maybe him don change." The watch group Mama Saad had formed was still active, and no one dared attempt another theft in broad daylight. One Saturday evening, Mama Saad handed Chaik a small envelope. "You work well this month," she said. "Take 'em. Start small, but make it clean." Inside was enough to buy food for his mother and himself. For the first time, Chaik felt pride in money he had earned with honest hands. Months later, the market celebrated its annual festival. Drums beat, traders danced, and children ran between stalls. Chaik helped set up decorations, carrying chairs and sweeping the paths. During a break, he heard someone laughing and saying, "Every day for the thief, one day for the owner." This time, it didn't sting. He smiled, knowing the saying was true, but also that it didn't have to be the end of a man's story. A year after his release, Chaik was no longer known as the market ghost. He had saved enough to start selling small household items from a rented table. Business was slow but steady, and his customers trusted him. Mama Saad often passed by, nodding in approval. "See you now," she'd say. "From ghost to trader. That's how life's supposed be." And as the market bustled on, Chaik worked with a quiet determination, carrying in his heart the lesson that had changed his life. Every day for the thief, one day for the owner. But the owner's day could also be the thief's chance to begin again.